Propel food coloring.
Ooh!
3, 2, 1. Gatorade! Yeah, baby.
On my knees shaking on my thigh. Post me a pic, finna make me a profit. When the liquor hit, then the get toxic.
All right, what's up, everyone? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Mad Woman Podcast. We have legitimately recorded this intro like 6 times. It's been a couple weeks since we've recorded, so it's taken a minute to get back into it. How you doing, Kira?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Olivia?
I'm good. Thank you guys for tuning back in. On this podcast, we talk all about sensuality, movement, dance, sexuality, and anything in between, really. Today, I want to talk about being single. I am an expert in being single. I really am. I have been single most of my adult life from the age of 18 to 26. And I just feel like it's a really cool and important topic to talk about because everyone at some point in their life goes through a single phase, whether you're someone that's going in and out of relationships pretty consistently, or if you're someone like me that was single for a really long consecutive period of time. There's so much you can get out of those phases where you are alone that I just wanted to kind of break it down today and talk about my experience. I'd love to hear about Kira's experience and any single moments throughout her life as well. And then after we kind of talk about singleness and what that can mean for you in different phases of your life, moving on to dating and a little bit of my own personal experience getting to the point where I was ready to date, where I wanted to date, and how you can stay authentic and confident and true to yourself in a world where dating feels like very overwhelming and negative a lot of the times these days. Mm-hmm. Like we hear it from just about every single person that's dating right now has so many complaints about everything just going on in our world with apps and everything. And I have a lot of opinions on the subject. So I'm really excited to talk about it today. But first, we can kind of dive into me and what makes me an expert on being single. Oh, let me get into it. So like I said, I have been single for 8 years up until this year when I was initially 26. I got into my first relationship of adulthood. So pretty much my entire adult life before this year was me being single. And there are 2 phases of singleness that I kind of want to get into. The first, which is like the absolute best, is you're single and you want to be single. Whether you made the decision to be single or it's just kind of happened and you realize like, holy shit, this is what I want. Like I'm able to explore myself. I'm able to find myself. I'm fully independent. I don't need to talk to anyone before I make important decisions. I am fully just flying by the seat of my pants at all times and I can do whatever the fuck I want at any point, and it's amazing. And there's so much beauty in that. The second phase is when you're single and you maybe don't really want to be single anymore. And I've definitely been there. I've been in both phases. So the first one is so incredibly important. I would say for the first few years, let's say it was like 8 years of me being single, which it pretty much was. I would say for the first half of that, I was very much like wanting to be single. I was in college. I was maybe open to a relationship at some point later in college, but I definitely didn't like want one. I wasn't actively like, I want to be in a relationship. I was very much finding myself. I feel like you go to college and they tell you want to be single at this time. Like just about everyone and their freaking mother has heard that, you know, if you're in high school and you have a high school boyfriend, like you guys should break up before you go to college. Like you're doomed from the start, whatever.
So mean.
But that's the messaging you get. I'm not saying that, not saying that from me. That's what people say is that you just shouldn't be in a relationship from high school going into college. Obviously there are some of those that end up working out. Most of the time, statistically they probably don't. Either way, I think whatever decision people make there, it's very much your own journey, and whatever path you take is the path that you're meant to be on there. So no judgment either way there. But yeah, I definitely was more like me and my high school boyfriend. So I had a high school boyfriend when I was like 17, and that was my only relationship up until this year. And it didn't even really feel like a real relationship. It felt very much like we were just kind of checking off boxes. Like, okay, we can say we've been in a relationship now. We can say we've been in love now, which I also don't even think we were actually in love, but we were just, it was almost like a game of fake it till you make it sort of situation. But we had already decided that we were going to break up before going to college. Like that was a given. We both wanted that. Like 6 months.
Your facial expression when you said that?
Like 6 months.
Like 6 months?
Not long, not short, just 6 months. But yeah, we like literally from getting together, I was like, I'm not going to have a boyfriend going into college. I think because I received that messaging for so long. And yeah, that was part of my journey. So I spent a lot of time being single, a lot of time finding myself. I've talked about my sort of history on, I don't remember which episode it was, but about releasing sexual shame, that path in college of being single and wanting to like have fun and, you know, drink and go to parties. Like it definitely had it brought me into some negative experiences that were really hard, but I do think that they were very transformative and definitely have made me into the person I am today. And they were all part of my journey in figuring out what I want and what I want for myself. So not to say that every single like interaction with men that I had was a negative one or a non-consensual one by any means. Like I was still exploring myself and deciding whether or not I wanted to be hooking up with people or be dating people or whatever. And I think that's just what you do when you're single and finding yourself. And it's a really important time. And then I kind of got to the point where I realized, okay, I'm using like hookups as a way to feel intimate and feel loved when that is not what this is. You know, like I am tricking myself into thinking like this person might have feelings for me and trying to receive love by giving physical intimacy. And it just like, it wasn't with the right people. It wasn't in the right way. Like it wasn't going to happen. And so I had to break that pattern. And that was a very clear pattern for me is I would develop crushes. I would, instead of like setting the expectation that I want to go on dates, I want to be courted, I want to whatever, like I would just hook up with them, you know, like because that's what I thought they wanted and that's how I would receive love in exchange. And breaking that pattern and realizing like, oh my gosh, that's not actually what I want. What I want is to be loved and seen and appreciated and courted and taken on dates. Like I have to break this pattern for myself. So yeah, that was maybe like in the middle of those 8 years, realizing that I was kind of pushing myself into this pattern of trying to receive more than was being given to me. And then realizing that I need to cut that off cold turkey. And yeah, starting to move into, all right, I'm ready to date and receive more. And that led to a few years of jack shit and not being intimate with anyone. And
I've seen you put in effort.
Girl.
Effort with a capital E.
Effort with a capital E in the dating field. Again, guys, this is why I'm qualified to talk about this subject, okay? I have put in the motherfucking hours on dating.
Job. I'm surprised Madhouse is doing so well.
Well, okay, that's another thing is with Madhouse, like I definitely, we'll get into my dating effort after we're done talking about the single era. But going back to, I feel like I just talked about kind of the negative aspect of the dating and being single, but it was instrumental in me developing my career and figuring out who I am as a person because, you know, what I wanted aside, like that I was just like not actually wanting a hookup. I was still single and doing my thing. Like I was not focused on men at all. And I think to this day, if I were in college and had gotten a boyfriend, because I was open to a relationship, if something had happened, like I could still be in Seattle right now. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm the kind of person that falls really hard and really fast. And if I was like committed to someone and interested in them and saw a future with them, I would probably stay in Seattle. You know, I probably would have never had the idea for Madhouse. I probably would have never gotten my sales job that led me to my restaurant job that led me to you. There's so many things that if my path did not progress exactly as it did, would be completely different. So that's the number one message I have is that no matter what phase you're in, whether you're single or whether you're in a relationship, you're on the right path and it's happening for a reason. I truly believe that. I'm very much an everything happens for a reason type of person. But yeah, when you're single and you're just finding yourself and developing your career and your interests and your passions, and we have lots of episodes about all that stuff, it's such an exciting time and you don't have to answer to anyone except for you. And it's getting comfortable with yourself and it's building like intimacy with yourself instead of with another person. And like giving yourself all the love and the pleasure and the joy and just having a fucking good time. Like really, like being single is fun. It's a good time.
It's exciting.
It's so exciting. And you have literally a world of possibility before you. Tell me about your little single endeavors before you and your relationship. Kira's happily in a relationship right now, but I want to hear about that single phase for you.
The very first guy I met at college was my ex-boyfriend, but it took him a long time. We were just on and off for like a year and a half before we became official my sophomore year of college. But during the time where I think I knew I wanted to be with my ex-boyfriend, so I just kind of had fun and hooked up with guys here and there and didn't really think much of it because I was like, they're irrelevant to me. It's not who I really want to be with, but he's not, I don't really, I don't even remember at this point. COVID happened.
Casual.
Fucked everything up.
Oh my God.
And then I went home to Pennsylvania. Okay, in between this though, my ex-boyfriend, we actually started dating my sophomore year, and then we broke up right before COVID. I was devastated, heartbroken. You know, I've talked about my self-love journey, and I was just really over guys, and I just I didn't care at all.
Talk more about that self-love journey in case people haven't listened to that.
I was very sad all the time. Granted, there was a lot of things. It was COVID. I had to move out of my college apartment and move back to Pennsylvania. I left all of my friends, my dance, my boyfriend, everything up and changed. And then online school in Pennsylvania. So there was a lot of things that I was sad about, but obviously a big one was that my boyfriend and I just broke up. And he technically chose another girl over me who was one of my friends. So it just really affected me negatively. My self-image of myself, every thought I had of myself, I was just second guessing myself. And it took me a few months. That this was March of 2020. And I would say until like July or August when I went back to San Diego was when I finally was like, I feel like I'm in a better space mentally. I did all the affirmations. I was journaling a shit ton during COVID, and I was faking it till I made it. And I just kept telling myself affirmations until one day I believed it, and then I was okay. And there was a couple guys during COVID that like made me realize that my ex-boyfriend, actually the guy that I broke his heart.
Oh, he came back in the picture, did he?
He came back during COVID.
It's persistent.
Yeah, he came back during COVID. We hung out, and we were always good friends. And they're just the way he treated me as a friend. I was like, and he was very outgoing, and my ex-boyfriend was very quiet, which nothing wrong with that, but I'm also very outgoing. And just the way that he would talk to this guy from home, he would talk to my family, and I grew up with him, so he was very comfortable with my family. And I was like, wow, I don't want to be with my ex-boyfriend. I want somebody who is more energetic, and just how kind he was to me. I wasn't used to that. So then I switched my narrative in my brain, and then I kind of changed my mind, and then I went back to San Diego. Junior year of college, one of the best years of my life. 100%. It was so much fun. It was...
And you're single?
Yeah, single. Junior year of college, I moved back in August. I was single until I met Joe in May. So this entire school year was just so much fun. It's like summer's out every day. You're doing online school. No one's actually studying. Everyone is just partying. And this sounds awful to say, but SDSU, a lot of people just like felt they lived in their own bubble. I was not one of the crazy people going to parties during COVID, but I had like my section of a friend group, and there was probably like 10 to 15 of us that we would all hang out and regularly get tested, all that and whatnot. But we had so much fun, and we were just having the ball, and we would go like paddleboarding on a random Wednesday, and I was just didn't care about anybody.
Yeah.
And I just focused on myself. There's a couple guys here and there, and then I turned 21.
We're getting there.
Olivia
Sorry.
knows it's coming. I had to get through the year, okay? I turned 21. I turned 21 though, and my ex-boyfriend that broke my heart told me he wanted to be with me again.
Oh,
and he was really jealous.
shit.
And I was like,
that's a good feeling.
Absolutely not. You lost your chance. Then I found this guy actually through Tinder. The only guy I've ever experienced on a dating app. Me and my girlfriends would swipe on dating apps just for like shits and giggles. I never wanted to actually hang out with them because I was just terrified, like being a woman. I was like, oh my God, what if this is going to end badly for me? So I never hung out with them. We matched on Tinder. We actually started Snapchatting, and we Snapchat regularly, kind of just dwindled. Nothing really happened. I'm a hopeless romantic, okay? So I believe in fate. Let me just say this. I got to paint the picture for what happened with this guy, okay? I'm sitting on my porch. I'm reading a book. And all of a sudden, someone says my name. And I look down, and the guy I matched with on Tinder like months ago, he's there.
Just at your porch?
He's at the sidewalk of
Did
my
you know that's
porch.
where you lived?
No. And I was like, I need to give him a name because it makes more sense. Can you give me a name?
Greg.
Sorry to
Don't
throw
say
out
you.
there. I just wasn't expecting
Cut that
Greg. Okay, well, Greg was there. And I was like, hi. And he was like, I actually just recognized your book because we were Snapchatting. He noticed the book I was reading. I just recognized your book, and I just assumed it was you. So I took a shot and yelled your name. And I was like, oh my God. He was like, I'm just playing soccer. And he just parallel parked outside my apartment. Like, what are the odds? He has no idea where I lived. Literally no idea at all.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, so I'm over there like, this is fate. Like, this is it. This is going to be the guy that I'm going to start dating. Anyway, we start hanging out. Bad. We call him 3 Pump Chump. We tried hanging out. We tried hanging out a few times. More than a few times. I like regularly saw this man a couple times a week. Always 3 Pump Chump.
Oh boy.
And then he ended up getting like kind of angry and mad at himself and like really embarrassed. So he was like, I can't see you anymore. Like, this has only happened with you. I can like.
Okay,
he
that's
was like, you're the
low-key
reason.
a compliment.
No,
for
I was
you?
like, okay. So
Slay, Kira.
anyway, so after that, I was like, absolutely not. Like, I don't care. If a guy comes my way, he'll come my way, but I'm not going on a dating app. We'll see what happens.
Let the record show that poor little Greg, this only happened with Kira. It's just because Kira is so hot, okay? Greg, we don't hold it against you. Many men would have the same issue. Continue.
And then my lovely, humanly amazingness boyfriend walked into my life a month later.
So you were like over men and you were like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
They're all
just
free
like,
pumpers.
yeah. I was just like, I'm not going to deal with Tinder or Hinge or anything again. And that's that. And then my coworker was like, I really want you to meet my roommates. One of them is just as loud as you. And that was Joe.
Wow.
And the rest is history.
Oh my gosh.
2.5 years with him.
Ay. That's such a good story. I love it. And it's funny because you pretty much had the experience that I have always been told that's how it would happen. You know, like you were saying before we started recording this episode, you stopped looking and that's when it came. And
That's what they always say.
it's what they always say. And as someone who was single for 8 motherfucking years, I can tell you get really sick of hearing people tell you it'll happen when you least expect it. Just like stop looking for it. Just don't want it. And then it will come. And I said, oh, thank you so much for that.
I love that input.
I'll
Thank
just
you.
go ahead and not want it. Perfect. I think that's ridiculous. And okay, since we're talking about it now, let's just go ahead and get into it. That is totally how a lot of people end up in relationships, which is why you hear that so much. It's because what's happening is you're focusing on yourself. You're finally in your own energy. You're feeling good. Not finally, I'm not saying people are on their own journeys, but a lot of times what happens is people are finally focused only on themselves. They're letting go of everything else. And I think the key there is just letting go of control. And that's when something comes into your life. But in order to let go of control, you don't necessarily need to be not looking for it or not wanting it. And so for me, that took years to reconcile in my mind because I heard nonstop, it'll happen when you least expect it. It will happen when you're not looking for it. Like, don't try too hard, you know, like you can smell the desperation. Like, don't be looking for a relationship and then you'll get in one. And I found that so hard to deal with because it's like, but I want one. Am I just going to lie to myself and try to convince myself that I don't want one? Because I'm at the point now where after, like we talked about, years of being single in the first half, toward the second half of my phase of being single, I was in the next phase of, okay, I'm single and I'm ready for something. And I don't want to be single anymore, if I'm being completely honest. And that's a hard thing to be really honest about, because it's embarrassing a lot of the times to say I'm single and I don't want to be. Because when you're single, it's like you receive this messaging that you either need to be really proud and really happy that you're single and independent and all these things, or you're in a relationship. And like the in-between of like, I'm single and I'm independent and I'm happy, but like I want a relationship is a less commonly talked about space to be in. And so when I finally was able to reconcile, like, no, this is normal, and I'm sure there are a lot more people like me that feel this way, that I've done the work on myself. Like I've had years of being single. I've been independent. I've started my career. I'm on a good track. I feel really confident in who I am as a person. Like, sure, maybe I still have more developing to do, and maybe that's why I'm still single. Like, but I'm not going to sit here and try to deceive myself that I don't want a relationship, because I do. And so getting truly honest with myself about that and accepting the fact that both can be true, like I can be happy and independent and feel powerful while also looking for a relationship, was such a relief to be able to accept that both things can be happening at once. And so when I finally decided that I was like ready to start looking, as Kira said, I fucking put in the work.
I genuinely loved watching it happen, though.
You've been here
great.
for most steps of my dating journey in its later phases. So I lived in LA for a couple years before moving back here. So I did date a little bit in LA. In my early dating stages, never got past 2 dates with anyone, because I was setting very firm like rules with myself, and I didn't want to have anything casual anymore. Like that's just not what I wanted. And a lot of the men that I was attracting, that's what they wanted. And it was very interesting to see that pattern continuing to repeat, even though that wasn't what I wanted anymore. And so I would shut it down and I would turn it away, and then nothing, like they would ghost me, or I decided they weren't the right one for me. Whatever it was, like nothing was panning out for a long time. And those are the times where it can get really hard and really lonely. So if you're in one of those phases right now where it feels like nothing's really coming to you or nothing's flowing, just know that I feel you and I've been there. And the best advice that I have is to just try to identify what patterns are coming up and why they might be coming up. So for me, over those few years where nothing was really happening, I was going on dates, but really didn't get past like 2 dates. It was basically a lot of guys that were like telling me a lot of things, like talking a lot, and then like actions just wouldn't line up with words. And as soon as the actions don't match up with the words, bye, but it took me a while to get to that point. I think that I did have a few instances where someone would bail on me for a date, and then they would reach back out and I'd be like, oh, hey, yeah, no worries. It's totally fine. Like just let it slide basically, and accept another date invitation from them. And then what do you know? They bail on that one. Like it's the...
Wait, can I say something?
Yeah. What?
Freshman year of college, he was on football team, and then he got drafted.
Sure. Of course he was.
We went out to eat at like 9 p.m. to a restaurant that was on meal plan. This dude forgot his wallet, or his meal, something didn't work. I think he forgot his meal plan and his credit card didn't work. I truly do not remember. Anyway, I ended up paying. I paid.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And speaking of, once actions don't line up with words, obviously that I didn't see him after that. Not just because all that happened and I paid, but other things. Anyway, 2 years later, I run into him at an SDSU party, and I look him in the eyes and he looks at me, and I was like, you owe me money.
My God.
Okay, wait, to clarify, this is why I said that. I paid for it, and he was like, don't worry, like I'll take you out to dinner, like I'll make up for it, give me all these promises. Or he was like, I'll pay you back, like I'll Venmo you or something. Never did. I might have never even like talked to him that much after that. And then 2 years later, I saw him, and I jokingly was like, you owe me money. And he pulls out, I think he gave me like, the bill was like,
oh, he actually paid.
Yeah, the bill was like $40. And he was like, big baller energy, like really cocky guy. he pulled out like $60 or $80. That's not a lot, but he just like threw it at me.
Oh, he charged you interest, or you charged him interest?
And then I walked away. That was the last time I heard of him.
I'm going to call that a dub.
Love it.
That's a win right there. But no, that's a great example of a lot of talk and a lot of actions that don't line up with words, and just guys that want to come in and out of your life and don't want to commit or just know that you're going to be there, because I was always there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would forgive it. I would be like, no, I don't want to be like the dramatic girl, or I don't want to, be high maintenance or whatever. And it's like, that's the bare minimum. That's not high maintenance. I deserve respect, and I put you on my schedule, and you're going to bail 30 minutes before. Like, we've all been here and been there. And I think for some people it's quicker to break this pattern than others. But yeah, I definitely had to go through my fair share of learning lessons over and over and over again. And it's like, when are you going to learn the fucking lesson and put your foot down? And eventually when I did put my foot down, it's another example of, okay, once you put your foot down, it takes a little bit for the next level of
people,
qualified candidates to make their way in, right? But no, I definitely started having better dates. But at this point, I had so many bad experiences, and so many experiences that just were nothing. Like I said, I had really not been on more than like 2 real dates with anyone. So as soon as I made it to 3 dates with someone, I was like, this is my person. I'm going to like, no, I know. That's how like clueless I was, and how little experience I had just of like successful dating. So I remember this one guy that I went on 3 dates with, and I thought we had like the best freaking time. I was obsessed with him. I went into full Delulu fantasy mode. I told my friends, like, I manifested my boyfriend, like he's here. I know it. And it, like, he ghosted me after those 3 days. So I'm like, wait, hold on. We had 3 amazing dates, and I've been like, I want to go back and give that girl a hug and be like, it's okay. And like, honestly, this is so embarrassing. I liked him for like 6 months after that. I was like, I wonder if he's going to change his mind and like reach out to me.
I'm going to
like,
ask
hey,
you who we're
sorry.
talking about after this podcast. I don't remember.
I don't think we really were like, I don't know if
this was like a while ago.
This was beginning of 2021.
Oh.
Or 2022. I can't remember.
I was
no,
thinking
2022.
This was, like,
you knew me, but I don't know if you would have
weren't
known
close.
about the situation. Yeah. It was a very minimal situation. Like, there wasn't much to tell, but somehow I had gotten in my head that like this guy was obviously going to come to his senses and realize that he wanted to be with me or whatever. Just the only reason I'm sharing this is just to show you how low the bar was set in my mind, and how much I just couldn't even picture what a healthy dating experience and relationship looked like. But at this point, each time I dated someone new, it got better and better and better, slowly but surely. So if you're in the dating phase, it's, you're still single, but you're going on dates. That is such an exciting time too, because you take a lesson from each experience that didn't work out, whether it was them that ended it, whether it was you that ended it, that decided you didn't want to do that. You can take something that you liked from them. You can take something that you didn't like from them, and you have more knowledge going into the next time. And every time I was bummed about something ending, the next experience I had was better, and it made me realize, oh my gosh, I don't need to be bummed about that person. Like, I look back at this guy now that I'm talking about, that I wrote journal entries about him. And I read those journal entries and I'm like, oh my God. First of all, I thought I was heartbroken. I was not heartbroken. Like, I've been heartbroken now, and that was not it. And it's just crazy how your perspective can change, and how you realize, like, thank God I didn't end up with that person. B, what was I thinking? They were literally giving me nothing. And so if you have never been receiving of actual healthy, like, reciprocated interest and courting and romance, and in a dating situation like that, you just don't know what that feels like. So each dating experience, even if it doesn't feel great, because it's like, that still wasn't my person, you still take something away from it to take to the next one. And so once I saw the pattern that every person I was dating after the one that I was bummed about before was better than the last, I wasn't bummed about them ending anymore. Or maybe I was bummed for a little bit, but I was like, well, the next person's going to be better. Like, once you see that pattern, you know that to be true. You know that whatever is ending for a reason, and the next thing will be better. Or something unrelated to relationships will come into your life. So like, when something ended, relationship wise, I would have a huge break career wise, like the next day. It's crazy how certain doors close and other doors open. And you guys, if you've been listening to the podcast, know that I'm a very spiritual person and very much like being in touch with the universe and feeling like everything happens for a reason. So, you know, if I said no to someone because they weren't giving me what I needed, and the next day, like I did a crazy amount of sales or something like that, like that to me felt connected. It felt like the universe was like, good for you for like holding your worth. You know what I mean? Like, you know your worth. And the more you start to know your worth, the more I'm going to start to give you things that are more aligned with that. So the more my confidence raised, the more my self-worth increased, the better my dating experiences got, because I knew what I was deserving of. And the experiences I was getting in the past were in line with my low self-worth and what I actually thought that I deserved. So it's a lot of internal work to get there. And then once I finally got into my first relationship this year, I had the same thing. Like, I was like, if this ends, that will suck because I don't want it to, but I know that the next thing will be better because that's just how the pattern goes. And that allows you, which it is. Hard launching now. Well, now I'm in a new relationship and it's so much better. Like, so many things are, I didn't even know that I didn't have in the first one. And it's just one of those examples of, it's still a very early relationship, so I don't want to like go into details or anything like that, but it's just one of those things where it just becomes so much clearer in hindsight and it makes sense why everything happened. And so that's what's going to happen when you're in the dating world and you're just figuring out what you want. Yeah,
that was beautiful. That's exactly what happened with my ex-boyfriend from college. And I am convinced this day, if it wasn't for him, I would not be as confident as I am now. And I 100% think that is one of the main reasons why he was put into my life.
Yeah.
And now I'm a big part of who I am now is definitely because of that heartache I went through and the emotions I went through and how it made me feel. And then I realized, breaking up with him, I realized everything I didn't want in a relationship. And now I have everything I want in a relationship. So,
and when you were in that, there was no way for you to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Hindsight's 2020, babies. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit more about specific, concrete dating advice for those of you that feel like you do want a relationship. As I've already established, I'm a motherfucking pro at this. No, but I have been through all the phases. And if you're in your single and happy phase, amazing. If you're in your single and thinking you want a relationship phase, then this could be really helpful. Or if you're just thinking about putting your toe into dating, or if you've been dating for a long time, this is just a little bit about what I have found personally helpful. And feel free to chime in, Kira, if you want to. But the first one is figuring out what you want. So we've already kind of talked about how when I was dating, each experience got slowly better than the last. I was learning things from each one, and whether or not I was sad, whether or not I was the one that ended it, I could always take it into the next one. And you always look back and you're like, wow, I did not actually want that. I can't believe how sad I was at the time. And it's a great feeling to be able to look back and be like, whew, I'm in a better place. And it's honestly because I went through that, you know? Another example of kind of figuring out what you want is what was modeled to you as a kid with your parents or with whatever role model couple was around when you were a kid. So a lot of the times, the most obvious example is if you had maybe a dysfunctional household, your parents didn't have the best relationship, you're obviously going to have some, you know, some sort of like limiting beliefs from that are maybe going to affect how you view relationships in adulthood. So working through that, whether it's through therapy or meditation or whatever like self-work you do to be able to let that past childhood trauma go is going to be really helpful. For me, my parents had an amazing relationship. For them, they were very functional. I grew up in a very functional household. They were married up until the day that my dad passed away, and they had a great relationship. as far as I knew. However, I never saw them kissing. I never saw them like showing real affection to each other. I saw them like, you know, kiss on the cheek or little pecks or whatever, but I never saw like PDA or holding hands or hugs or like those cute moments. Or I would go over to my friend's house and like my friend's dad would smack her mom on the ass like randomly in the kitchen, which I thought was hilarious and super fun, like just playful, you know what I mean? And I didn't even realize that could be a thing in adulthood and in marriage and in partnership, that you can still have that type of relationship when you're married with kids. And so even though my parents had an incredible relationship, when I truly sat down and reflected on it, I didn't want that type of relationship. Even though I loved my parents and I loved the way I grew up, there was part of me that was holding myself back because I thought, oh no, maybe I don't actually want a relationship because that's what relationships look like. And I don't want that. I don't want to be trapped in a relationship that doesn't have those cute, intimate, public PDA moments. Like I want someone that's going to show their affection to me and show me all these things that I didn't see as a kid growing up. And so again, on an intellectual level, I can know what I want. Like I want this type of relationship, but on a subconscious level from my whole life, witnessing my parents' relationship, I'm internalizing that that's what marriage and relationships look like. So if I don't want that, I'm going to be holding myself back without even knowing it. This is my experience personally. I'm not saying everyone goes through something like this, but I had that realization of, whoa, I don't want that. So I need to do some work and go in and realize that the type of relationship I want is achievable to me. And the next step in that was realizing that what I want was out there. So being single for as long as I was, I could not even picture myself in a relationship at that point. Like I had spent 8 years fully by myself. Like it's hard to even fathom what it would be like to be in a relationship. I think the only people that understand that feeling are people that have been single for a super long period of time. Like I just can't even picture it. Like I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that would feel like. And that's like very daunting because how am I going to bring that into my life if I have no idea what that even would mean? And obviously I went through a lot of bad dating experiences because I didn't know what it would feel like. But when I started to have more breakthroughs and started to bring in more positive experiences, it was when I started visualizing more and started really trying to feel, okay, when I'm in my ideal relationship, what is it going to feel like? What am I going to feel like? What is it going to look like? And literally visualizing. We've talked about the power of visualization on here before and how impactful it can be. Just visualizing your future and visualizing yourself. They don't need to have a face. They don't need to have whatever. I think honestly, the most important is the feeling, imagining the feeling of what's that person going to make me feel like and focusing in on that. And that was a really helpful step to kind of focus on what I wanted as well. Do you have anything to add there?
That was beautifully said. I don't actually.
Okay, perfect. So the next one, we also kind of went over this. What patterns are popping up? So like I said, for me, I was just constantly having guys that wouldn't follow through. Their actions did not line up with their words. And that was very clearly my pattern. And I kept letting things slide. And I will say in my most recent dating, so after my first relationship and I this year broke up, I have since been dating a lot before now the new relationship that I'm in. And I had this pattern come up again. And I was like, why is this still happening? But this time when it happened, I immediately was like, no. And I was so proud of myself. It happened with like 3 different situations. We would make plans. The day came around, never received a text. And past me would have been like, hey, did you still want to hang out? You know, like a couple days later, hey, not sure what your schedule's looking like, but blah, blah, blah. Nope, never talking to them again. Goodbye. Even if they text me.
Love this for you.
And some of them didn't text me ever again. And then another one, just after that literal same situation happened, I'm telling you, they come in patterns. Didn't text me at all when the day of our plans came around. Then like 2 weeks later texted me, hey girl.
Oh no.
Hey girl.
No. I roll.
Again, past me, and I almost slipped. But I didn't. Past me would have said, hey. Or like, let's just say hey and see if he's going to apologize. Because like maybe if he apologizes, I just never responded.
I'm so proud of you.
I was so proud of myself that and what gave me the strength was having my past relationship now. And it was like my self-worth was so much higher than those experiences that were coming in. When my self-worth was lower and in line with those experiences of a guy like ghosting me or being like, hey girl, like sliding in after not talking to me for a few weeks, I would have been like, hey. But now my self-worth was just like through the roof. And it's like, I'm not even going to waste my time responding to you. Contact deleted, Instagram blocked, like you're gone. And that is the most empowering freaking place to be.
This made me think when I met Joe, I met my boyfriend when the week that he graduated college. So all of like him and his roommates' parents were coming into town. He was in the depths of finals and he was studying for the CFP, and I was really busy with dance in school and he was really busy. It was just a crazy time. And he put in so much. It was the first time I like ever genuinely experienced effort from a man that like wanted to date me. And he was very honest, and we were texting back and forth, and he was like, okay, I want to take you on a date. Let's figure out when our schedules work. I'm obviously, you know that I'm busy with graduating and everything, but like, I'm going to put you on my calendar right now. And we like went back and forth a little bit, and I actually had off. I wasn't teaching for Madhouse because it was Memorial Day, May 2021. And I was like, I actually have off on Monday night if you're free. And he was like, perfect. I'm planning the day. I got this. You are now booked.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, I've never experienced that before. It was great. And I was like, this is what effort is like.
It's
love
just
such a changer.
It's such a changer, because then worst case, you and Joe don't end up together. You will literally never settle for less.
Yeah.
Like once someone shows you that that's possible, and guys, if you're listening, whether or not someone else has shown you that, it's obviously easier once you've experienced it yourself, but you can hear it from us here too. It exists. The effort exists. The consistency exists. The saying and doing what you mean, or hello, doing what you say exists.
Those
so
people out
don't
there.
settle for less.
And I hate when people say, well, they don't. Sometimes people are joking when they say maybe you should lower your standards. But there's people out there that say that, like when somebody like Olivia would go and just be like, well, he can't be this, they can't do this, they blah blah blah. Someone's like, are you sure? Like maybe you should just like, change those. Like that kind of seems like a lot.
Yes.
No. You know what you want. They're out there.
Yes.
Oh, it makes me angry.
I received that messaging from, I absolutely love my mother, but I received that messaging from my own mother. And I was like, Mom, standards are non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
And it's purely coming out of a place of love from her. Like she just wants to see me happy, and she knew that I wanted a relationship. So she's like, well, maybe if you were just a little less picky about certain things, she's like, you could have a boyfriend tomorrow if you wanted. Like, I'm like, yeah, sure. I could go find I don't know, but I want specific things in a person.
Standards.
And I'm not willing to sacrifice those.
Picky was the word I was trying to think of. That's
Picky.
the word that people love to say. They won't like come out and say, maybe you should lower your standards. They'll say, well, don't you think you're being a little picky?
Yeah.
And
great. Be picky. Be picky about the things that matter. Like if something is ego based, like super, oh, I need to date a British guy because my ex fucking hated British people. I don't know. Like if it's something that's obviously not coming from a place of internal authenticity, then maybe that's something you can let go of, that you don't actually need to hold on to. But wanting someone that doesn't bail on you before a date, that's not picky. That
communicates healthy.
Yes, exactly. So don't lower those standards for anyone,
settle.
baby girl.
Do not settle.
Don't settle. So keep an eye out for those patterns in your life, whatever they are. So that's the next thing. Next step that I would say was, this one I feel like is controversial because I hear all the time, and I'm sure you do too, Kira, the statement, men are trash. I hear that from so many people, mostly from women that are in the dating world, and guys do them wrong. And I've been there. And I have even been a believer of that statement before. When I actually started to have good dating experiences was when I completely let that statement go. I feel like we hold so much anger toward men because we've had so many that have treated us poorly. But just because some men have mistreated us does not mean that they all are. And if every man that you're coming in contact with is treating you that way, it's because you have patterns that you haven't broken. And so basically taking ownership and being like, what am I doing to attract this same type of person back into my life was really important for my personal journey. And I don't want to put that on anyone else, but I'm just speaking from my own experience. When I firmly held the belief that I hate men are trash, I'm never going to find the person that is, you know, going to be my person. They all do me wrong. I can't trust them. They all like, I held that like close to my heart. It's like I wanted to hold on to that anger, and that just seeped into everything else. And what do you think I attracted more of? More of trash men. Like, I'm not saying they don't exist. They do exist, but many good ones are out there. And when I started to, again, it's kind of like an affirmations, like we've talked about. Even if you don't truly believe it yet, I started to repeat to myself, there are many good men out there. Like, I literally would tell that to myself. Like, I would not, even in my own mind, even to someone else joking, I would no longer say the sentence men are trash. I would no longer say like, yeah, all men suck, whatever. Again, because I feel like some people throw it around just joking or whatever, but I do think that what you say matters, and you really internalize that information. And so I started to just tell myself, there are many great men out there. Like, there are many great single men that I could meet, that I will meet, and my person is out there. And switching that narrative, even if you're just saying it joking to yourself, I challenge you to really question that and let that go, because I think that more positive experiences are going to start to come into your life once you can let that go.
When my brain thinks men are trash, it usually doesn't have to do with a man mistreating somebody who like they just went on like one date with them. It's usually like something way more serious. Like, it's like that poll that if women were to take a poll of like, what would you do if all men in the world would not be here? And they say things like, oh, I would go running at night. I would go on a walk with my headphones in. I would not look underneath my car. I would park in a parking garage. Like, all the things that should not be taken from us that we all do subconsciously, because statistically, men are trash.
Okay.
But not really. So my brain goes to that. So when my brain says men are trash, I feel like I'm stereotyping the public of males being dangerous to women. Not necessarily.
Yeah, no, I think I'm talking about men are trash just in like a dating context. But
I think though, people, at least my reaction when I'm listening to you, all I could think about was what I just said. So I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Well, let me just say then, for anyone listening that thinks that as well, I obviously there are dangerous men out there. Even in a dating context, there are men that treat women poorly. Like, that is not up for debate. That's like true. I think what I'm saying is it's not all men, and there are still many great single men out there that you can find once you open yourself up to them. That's all that I meant to say.
Yeah, and I didn't think you were saying anything bad either. And I always, I mean, I like my dad, he's amazing. My boyfriend, he's amazing. My brother, I'm surrounded by amazing men in my life. So obviously I don't think all men are trash.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shitty men out there though. There's a lot of shitty people out there.
There's a lot of shitty men. There's a lot of shitty women. There's a lot of shitty people. And just because you're encountering them, it doesn't mean they're the only ones that exist. We just need to figure out how to get the good ones into your life.
I also did though, like, try and, when you said whoa, Kira, what you think you will attract. I think it's a great way to say it though, because if you keep just saying men are trash, men are trash, men are trash, maybe you're just never going to have your eyes open to the good seed, the good apple coming your way. So I think that was a good piece of advice.
It's almost like you just force yourself into having the same experience because that's what you expect. So that's what you're going to keep bringing. Yeah. That's what I personally believe from my own experiences. And when I was able to let that go, I was able to finally start making progress and meeting better people and realizing like, okay, we're getting somewhere. Continuing on, the next step is putting yourself out there. So talking about modern dating and specifically dating apps because they're so relevant in the modern dating world. We know Kira has one Tinder experiences with Mr. Three Pump Chump. Hilarious. I have been a motherfucking app queen. Okay. I've been on the apps. I've been off the apps. I've been all the things. So my take on the apps is that it's an incredible way to put yourself out there. And it goes into my next 2 points. So I'm going to say all of them and then kind of bring them together. So when you're dating, I feel like it's really important to stay in the moment and enjoy your life and be happy with everything that's going on in your life and release control of whatever may happen. So I think the absolute most you can do in the dating world is put yourself out there and then see what happens. Like, as someone who controls almost every element of her life, it was very difficult for me to accept that I don't have control over, I only have 50% control over my partnerships, right? The other 50% is reliant on something or someone else. And I just can't force it. What I can do is do everything in my power to put out there in the world that I'm single, I'm ready to mingle, I'm down if something comes my way. So to me, that was putting myself on the apps, whether or not I was super active on it, whether or not I was like actively swiping, I knew that I was out there. And that also helped me stay more in the moment when I was out and about in my regular life. Cause I wasn't, I would go on the apps when it was convenient, at home, whatever. But then when I'm out with my girlfriends or out to dinner or out at a bar or something like that, I feel like when you're not on apps and you're like, I really want to meet someone, but I have to meet them organically, it almost puts this pressure to find that person every time you're out. Cause it's like, well, if I'm going to meet someone, this is like the only time, or like to the grocery store, I better be looking cute because like this could be my meet cute, and it puts all this extra pressure on all these normal day-to-day things, at least for me. Whereas when I was on the apps, I was like, okay, at least I know that I could meet someone this way. And all the ways that I can control, I'm putting myself out there. And so that helped me release control and just be like, what happens will happen now. I've signaled to the universe that I'm ready for something if it wants that to happen, if it can come to me. And that's all I need to do because I can be assured that I'm in the right place at the right time and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be on my journey. So whatever happens will happen. But at least I've done everything in my power to receive something that I want. What are your thoughts on the apps?
I don't have a problem with them.
It.
I haven't done much with them. Like I said, I was only one guy. I think it's a great way to meet people.
Yeah.
I know so many people who are married to their Tinder dates or Hinge dates or whatever, or dating people that they met on dating apps. I think they're great. I think you need to be safe using them because they can be really sketchy at times, but that's kind of my only opinion because I didn't experience much personal experience from it except for that one guy. But I technically kind of met him in person, so I was okay hanging out with him. Right. I never experienced like meeting somebody and the next time I saw them was face to face.
Yeah.
And I've only seen you through a screen. So
got it. Yeah, and the apps are different for everyone. Like I've talked to people that just don't feel like themselves on the apps. They just don't feel like they can have true connections or they just don't meet the right people. And not to discount any of those experiences. I think for me, I just kind of had to set it and forget it. I try to get out of the like text chat conversations as soon as I can and meet in real person safely. Super important. It's a great point. And yeah, I think it was for me kind of a numbers game. Like you said, I put in the effort and I went on so many dates, like, cause I decided I want a relationship and screw everyone that says you can't be looking for it or else it won't happen. Cause I want one and I want to like experience that connection with someone. And so I will be the first to say, I put myself out there and I freaking tried. And I don't think that you need to not be looking for it to find that. So just to go ahead and wrap this conversation up, thank you guys for listening. If you are in a single phase, enjoy it, love it, spend time with yourself, find out more about yourself, find out what you like, what you don't like. If you're in a phase where you want to start dating, again, find out what you like, what you don't like, start having new experiences with people, start identifying patterns that are either good or bad and see what you can change. Because if you keep repeating your same patterns and your same actions, the same things are going to continue to come to you. And just open yourself up to a world of beautiful possibilities.
That was so cute.
Thank you guys for listening. Let us know if there's anything else you want us to talk about. We appreciate you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.